So it looks like July 12th in New York City is going to be a stacked card headlining by Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. And the co-main event is going to be led by Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz, along with title fights with Alberto Puello versus Subriel Matias, and then the return of David Morrell coming off a loss as he will be taking on undefeated light heavyweight contender Imam Kataev. Listen, I apologize if I pronounced the name really wrong, but anyway, let's get to it. So finally, we got William Zepeda, who must have built up the confidence to finally step in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is coming off a win against Josh Padley, who actually just got a win over the weekend. And a matter of fact, a knockout win over the weekend, and he looks better, the electrician. And then you have William Zepeda coming off a rematch with Tevin Farmer, whereas though he actually got the win over Tevin Farmer in another close fight. The first fight was pretty close as well, so William Zepeda got the win the second time, and he finally, in my opinion, got the balls, or maybe it's Golden Boy got the balls to finally put William Zepeda in there. Now remember, Shakur Stevenson was supposed to take on Floyd Schofield, and Schofield himself actually, at the last minute, had to pull out the fight due to some illness, allegedly. And it was recorded he was in the hospital. Me personally, I thought it was kind of like a suspicious, because the fact of the matter is that they talked all that nonsense about Shakur Stevenson. And then even after the fact, they seemed like the Schofields, they kind of moved on from Shakur Stevenson anyway. So let's just say if Floyd Schofield would have taken that fight with Shakur Stevenson, that would have been an embarrassment to somebody like a William Zepeda, who's been the mandatory for basically all 4 belts in the division. And it seems like he was trying his best to avoid the whole situation. Now, and William Zepeda, in his, due to his credit, he finally taking on a fight. But he probably looking at it like, well, Shakur Stevenson seems to have a lot of hand problems when he fights. He always injures his hands, especially in, these championship fights. Like he has a hand problem. So maybe in his mind, he's probably thinking like, oh, I could take this guy out. Once Shakur Stevenson injures his hand, I'm just going to go right along and apply pressure on him. But we know Shakur Stevenson is a defensive wizard. However, sometimes with Shakur Stevenson, he can get a little hard-headed in his corner, like to argue with his corner, like to argue with everybody else. But like I said, he's a defensive genius, and he actually has a high ring IQ. And on top of that, he's still young. You know what I'm saying? Unlike Tevin Farmer. I'm not saying Tevin Farmer is old, but at the end of the day, as far as in terms of boxing years, he was a little up there, and he was giving somebody like William Zepeda a lot of problems. So maybe Zepeda could take this, whatever he had from the Tevin Farmer fight, use that as a lessons learned. He gained some experience from that, fighting a slick fighter. And he could go into the Shakur Stevenson fight and, implement his game plan. But again, it's still going to be hard, because even though somebody like Tevin Farmer is very slick and everything else, him and Shakur Stevenson is two totally different fighters. But at the end of the day, I still think it prepares him for somebody like a Shakur Stevenson. I know there are a lot of rumors stating that Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz are supposed to be headlining this whole card. Now, to me, if that's the case, that's really embarrassing. Like, I get it. Somebody like Edgar Berlanga is Puerto Rican, and for some reason on this side of the world is if you are classified as some type of Latina or look like a white Hispanic, or just have some type of Hispanic roots, you seem to have the crowd following, and that's where the money goes. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, a lot of these fans, they get bamboozled with the marketing situation. I get it. You want to support somebody who you think you could relate to as a fan, But at the end of the day, Berlanga, and everybody knows this, Berlanga is not that guy. He's really not. I mean, yeah, he has power. He had a spark when he started. But now, I mean, he's just garbage. You know what I'm saying? Well, I ain't gonna say he's totally garbage, but I mean, he had a little spark when he started with these 16 KOs in a row. But bro, he just was never that guy. And the guy he's fighting is Hamza Shiraz, who was also another hype job in my opinion. And people hyped him up like, oh yeah, he's tall, he's in there. But he, his last fight when he fought, when he actually went up against I can't even think of the guy's name right now. Oh, Carlos Adames. When he went up against Carlos Adames, everybody know Carlos Adames really won that fight. That fight ended up turning around being a controversial draw. But at the end of the day, everybody knew Carlos Adames won that fight. He practically schooled Hamza Shiraz. So much to the point, instead of doing a rematch, Hamza Shiraz actually moved up in weight. I don't know if that's due to the fact that maybe he was struggling to make 160, or he just feel as though like, oh man, it's just too much. It's just too much down here for me, man. I can't fight this guy again. But whatever the case it is, I think both of these guys, Hamza and Edgar, this is a good fight for both of them to come back on. You know what I'm saying? They gonna sit there and make it a crowd pleasing fight. But at the end of the day, this bet not be the headliner. I know people are making reports saying this is the headliner. This bet not be the headliner. Because if it is, like I said before, it's very embarrassing. But moving on. So, like I said, you got Subriel Matias versus Alberto Puello. And to me, that should be the co-main event over the Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz. I don't give a damn about these Puerto Ricans and it's in New York. I could care less about that shit. You need to schedule this shit appropriately. You have fucking Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz come behind the 2 championship bouts that's going to be taking place that night with Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, and Alberto Puello and Subriel Matias. Subriel Matias is Puerto Rican, so if you are really Puerto Rican, you should throw that fucking colorism or race out the door and support the actual real Puerto Rican and Subriel Matias, who's going to be fighting in New York. So, fuck the, what's the name, hanging out with Terror Squad and all that bullshit. If y'all Puerto Rican, like I said, y'all will actually support the real Puerto Rican who's actually from Puerto Rico, even though he's a black dude, but he's the real Puerto Rican from that island. Y'all support him. Y'all come out for him. Because at least that guy always come bring the fight, regardless. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Bold and understanding, I'm out. Peace.